Good afternoon. This is Todd Colvin coming to you from the floor of the CME Group. We are looking at FX and the Japanese yen. Seen better days, although we did see a modest bid today. It's been one of those last couple weeks has been very volatile. We've got some clearly defined ranges. Dollar yen looking at around 111.5 to the upside, 108 to the downside. Right now we're hovering basically in the middle of that, right around. We got as low as 109.5 today, but we're a little bit higher than that now. Essentially, the market's waiting for something. Wonder what that could be. And we would look forward, to the things that we have ahead. We've got some central bank meetings ahead. We've got trade, discussions, G7, all that. So there's a lot on the table here. So the yen, like most other commodities, is starting to find itself in some kind of middle ground, waiting for some kind of resolution. And if you look at on the home front, Japanese economic data has not been very favorable. We saw household spending decline. We've seen May services PMI decline. Things that we would have thought would have seen an increase. Obviously, the Japanese separate themselves when it comes to the central banks like the Fed and the ECB and others because they've been doing this for so much longer. You've had so much stimulus for so long that you forget that while the other countries have been doing it, other central banks have been doing it for about a decade, they've been doing it for much longer, and they are still continuing to do it. The data that we've seen recently is not going to help them stop that. And if you look at next week's big events, you have a Bank of Japan meeting. Next Thursday and Friday, you've got the ECB meeting, you got the Fed meeting, you've got a lot of big data in the U.S. I think that the Fed with raising rates and the ECB now hearing that they're going to be talking about debating when to stop their QE is going to continue to bid their currencies. However, over at the BOJ, you're not going to see such discussions. And I think that what we're going to see is that the yen is going to continue to suffer as it has since the dollar really started its bid back in late March. So as we move ahead, we've got central bank meetings. We've got the yen kind of in a range-bound trade here. But I think right now you're probably going to be eyeing that dollar yen getting to those highs again with the idea that there is going to be more strength with higher yields in the U.S., higher rates in the U.S., talk of higher rates in Europe, and and trade talks getting through. The sort of the risk-off trade is what caused the yen to bid over the last 2 weeks, and once risk goes back on, it should continue to bid to favor the dollar. So right now, I'm seeing a yen probably in the midpoint, but if I'm a buyer of dollars, seller of yen, I think we're probably going to near the top of that range sooner than later, probably even before the Fed meeting with the writing already on the walls in the U.S. and Europe, and likely so when we get the G7 meeting later this week and we get continued trade talks between the U.S. and the rest of the world. A lot of this is going to come to fruition. The dust is going to settle, and it's probably not going to be as bad as you read in the media. So I think right now, the yen being in the middle of that range is probably a selling opportunity for those out there. So right now, waiting for more news, waiting for central banks as well as G7 and trade talks. This is Todd Colvin coming to you from the floor of the CME Group.